Driver shortage? I'm not sure. How about you? I usually always ask those sitting in the very back row. He's already looking at his smartphone. Driver shortage is a big issue these days, right? Are there more problems than solutions? At the moment, yes. But I can already say this. We're about to be presented with a solution right here. It's about the concept of relay transport with trailer swapping, and yes, I think that's a fascinating topic. We have a cheerful speaker whom we can now welcome here on stage. He is the CEO of MANSIO, Dr. Maik Schürmeyer. A warm welcome. The stage is yours.
Yes, thank you very much for the kind introduction. And so I would like to warmly welcome you to my presentation. I actually have a little more than 3 minutes. Today I actually get to speak here for half an hour, and I'm very happy to be here. And to tell you something about the future of long-distance transport in Europe with a relay system. So, as was just mentioned, with a system of points where trucks and trailers can be handed over, of course in connection with refueling and charging infrastructure. But before we talk about the future of freight transport, I would like to take a step back and look at the present with you. What is the situation today? The situation for a traditional freight forwarder. We face economic, ecological, and social challenges. Let's start with the economic challenges. Depending on whether you are in general cargo, freight transport, or specialized transport, we're talking about EBIT margins somewhere between 1% and 5%. Or to put it bluntly, it's hardly possible to make money with a truck anymore. There are many reasons for this. The transport performance of each individual vehicle is decreasing due to increased traffic congestion. Overall, trailer and truck utilization is decreasing. We are facing additional bureaucratic challenges, a toll increase, and higher energy prices. All of these are phenomena that did not exist in the past. Of course, we are also under significant pressure from large Eastern European fleet operators and so on. We clearly notice all of this right here. In our daily business with the freight forwarders, and as was just mentioned, the major issue is the driver shortage. Currently, there is a shortage of about 80,000 truck drivers in Germany. Across Europe, 400,000 truck drivers are missing, and the trend is rising. The reasons for this are just as varied. Certainly, demographic change and the suspension of compulsory military service are some reasons, but for us, much more significant is the fact that the profession of truck driver is no longer as attractive today as it might have been 20 years ago. So the challenge is to finally make this profession more appealing again. And finally, we face ecological challenges. The major topic, the transition in propulsion systems. If you walk through the hall here, you'll see an incredible number of wonderful vehicles, hydrogen-powered, electrically powered, but you mainly see them here in the hall. If you drove here to Hanover by car, you probably didn't see these vehicles on the road. The reasons for this are also well known. As a freight forwarder, when it comes to these vehicles at the current time, you ask yourself, how long will my battery even last? Will I even make it to my destination? Then you ask yourself, where can I even charge or refuel? Especially in public areas, the charging infrastructure is really not available. You also don't know under what conditions you'll have to charge in public areas in the future. And finally, you might ask yourself, why should I, as a freight forwarder, 300,000 euros for such a vehicle with all these logistical risks I face, when for 100,000 euros I could get a comparable diesel vehicle? So there are also major challenges here that still need to be overcome in the coming years. Well, sorry. These challenges are especially great in long-distance transport. In long-distance transport, we have exactly the problem that driving and rest times, of course, have a significant impact. A truck driver drives for about 9 hours, then takes their rest break and continues driving the next day. This means we have a very low utilization rate of the vehicle's capacity. Especially in long-distance transport, we have virtually no alternative drive technologies, and we also have exactly the problem in long-distance transport that the driver is not as well off as they are now. The truck driving profession is so unattractive because people have to sleep in the cabins. Now, one might say the solution is actually quite simple. We'll just shift our transport capacity to the railways. And when you see some progressive people on TV whose hands might still smell a bit like glue, you hear statements like, yes, every second truck needs to go onto the rails, but let's take a look at the numbers. As of today, almost 80% of transport capacity in Europe takes place on the road. And if we now say that every second one of these trucks should be put on the rails, then that would simultaneously mean that we would have to triple the capacity of the railways overnight. I traveled here by train yesterday, and it was a disaster, and every one of you will share this fate with me. It's simply not realistic to think that we can increase rail capacity overnight to the point where the railway can solve our problems. So land transport will continue to take place primarily on the road. So if we want to achieve the Paris climate goals, etc., then the problems definitely have to be solved on the road. Now the question is, who can solve these problems? Who will manage to make road freight transport profitable again in the future so that you can actually make money with a truck? Who will manage to be so attractive that in the future, qualified drivers will once again join companies and drive? And who will manage to gradually keep pace with this major step of the drive transition? And in the future, also meet the CO2 targets that are being gradually set for us by the EU. Who are these heroes with whom we can overcome these great challenges? And these heroes do exist. You all know these big names that stand out, the major integrators, the large logistics corporations that operate across Europe with numerous branches, and in some cases, very large fleets. Can these corporations solve the problem? Let's take a look at the numbers. You can see that these major logistics integrators, the 10 largest, account for just 10% of the market share in Europe. Despite their billions in revenue, they only make up 10% of the entire market share. So they alone won't be able to solve our problems. We need the remaining 90%, and those are precisely the many medium-sized companies. The small, often family-run companies with 51, 100, or 150 vehicles who make sure every day that our goods are transported from A to B. And now you might say, well, that's just a snapshot. 10% corporations, 90% medium-sized businesses. We've been in a period of consolidation in this fragmented market for quite some time now. But even there, I'd like to take a look at the numbers with you. 10 years ago, the top 10 logistics companies held 10%. 7 years ago, they were at 10%. 4 years ago, they were at 10%. And today, they're still at 10%. So anyone claiming that we've been in a consolidation phase for years, I'm afraid I have to disappoint them. As of today, we are still not in this consolidation phase. It may come in the future. But as of today, we're not there yet. Of course, we read the news. We read like a broadcaster. The land division in Europe is being taken over by Seattle Robinson. Now we can observe how DSV is taking over Schenker. So, of course, M&A activities are happening, and we will certainly see such press releases again in the future. But for the moment and in the medium term, it's exactly the same. These companies with fewer than 250 employees make up 80% of the market. So if we want to solve the problems in road freight transport, then we either have to wait until a possible consolidation phase is eventually completed, and our big superheroes solve the problems. Or we have to make sure that these very medium-sized companies are empowered to operate in an economically, ecologically, and socially sustainable way. But let's take a look at how a typical medium-sized transport company operates in long-distance haulage today. A highly simplified example. A customer calls and has a transport order from A to B. Now the dispatcher assigns a driver to the truck and has them drive this route, maybe a day trip of 600 kilometers. The truck driver unloads, then sleeps in his cab. And the next day, it's the dispatcher's job to find a suitable return load. Of course, he doesn't find one on the same route, but maybe finds a return job on one of the well-known freight exchanges. The driver first has to drive 50 kilometers empty to get there, which is obviously neither economically nor ecologically ideal. There, the truck is loaded again and the driver heads back. This simple example really illustrates very vividly what exactly the problems are. A truck that could actually run 24/7 is standing still for 70% of its time. But why does the expensive truck have to stand idle when it's really only the driver who needs to take a rest period? So it's an insanely large waste of capacity. Just imagine you are a manufacturing entrepreneur, you have a large fleet of machines, and I told you that your machines only run 20 or 30% of the time. You would probably declare bankruptcy immediately. That's unthinkable. But in long-distance transport, we do this every day. The truck driver would love to spend time with his family, but he's in this nice blue city and has to sleep in a cabin. If there are two drivers, he even has to share the cabin with a colleague. So what does the future of freight transport look like? In our view, both my personal opinion and that of MANSIO, the future is relay traffic, relay transportation, or to put it simply, an extension of the meet and pass system. In other words, a collaboration of medium-sized companies that operate very intelligently within their regions and carry out transports together. This is done through trailer handovers, through relay runs. They manage to work locally and still participate in long-distance transport. And the principle behind it is nothing new. We certainly didn't invent it either. This is the classic meet-in-the-middle transport, which has been successfully used for many decades. For example, in parcel logistics or between general cargo hubs. Meet-in-the-middle transport means two trucks drive toward each other, meet halfway, say at a parking lot, and there they swap trailers or swap bodies. Then each driver returns to their home region with their own tractor unit, but with their colleague's trailer. And with this simple meet-in-the-middle principle, you can address many of today's problems. It allows you to have the expensive vehicle back home at the end of the shift. As a fleet manager, you can use this vehicle in a day shift, twice a day. That means you immediately cut your fixed costs in half. Or to put it another way, with the same number of vehicles, you can generate twice the revenue, provided you have the right drivers for it. But it's not just the expensive vehicle that's back home at the end of the day or shift. In this traffic system, the driver is also back home. He can spend time with his family, the job becomes more attractive, and in doing so, we may also make a small contribution to addressing the major driver shortage. Now, the third major problem, the transition to new drive systems. If you have a truck with an electric drive, you need predictability. And that's exactly the predictability we offer with relay traffic. Because at the end of the shift, the vehicle is back home with you. You know exactly how this vehicle is being driven. It can charge at your home yard, provided you have a charging facility there. And in the end, you no longer have to drive such long distances because we divide the long routes into short segments. These segments are then assigned to regional transport companies, which, if possible, can also use electric trucks much more easily than is usually possible in long-distance transport today. And that is exactly the vision we have with MANSIO, to cover all of Europe. With a network of points where, for example, a trailer swap can take place, where a truck can be handed over, or where, perhaps in the future, batteries can be exchanged. Where a driver can take their rest period, where an electric truck can be charged or refueled with hydrogen. This is how we envision long-distance transport in the future. And we are making a significant contribution to this by acting as the link between medium-sized freight companies. We are the glue that turns the many Smurfs, as they were just described, the many strong medium-sized companies, into a virtual community and empowers them to work together in a system of meeting traffic. So we see the transport order data, and then we find suitable routes for intercompany meeting traffic. And it doesn't have to be this one-to-one matching. A swaps with B, B swaps with A. Of course, we can also organize a ring exchange. In a ring exchange, 3, 4, or 5 vehicles meet at the same time in the same place. And then A swaps with B, B swaps with C, and C swaps with A. And everyone drives back to their home region. Of course, we can also organize relays, meaning that a trailer is handed over several times in succession, similar to what you see in athletics during a relay race. And these relays naturally have the added advantage that our transit times are reduced. Imagine a transport scenario. Fresh fruits and vegetables are to be transported from Spain to Germany. Nowadays, that's 2,500 kilometers with a transit time of 4 days, because the driver drives for 9 hours and rests for 15 hours. But if you don't park the trailer and instead keep handing it over, you save yourself not only the risk of cargo theft, but the transit time is immediately cut in half, from 4 days to 2 days. Once we've completed this matching, the next step is, of course, to empower the drivers by sharing all the information with them and enabling us to document damages and the condition inside the vehicle. And in the end, we also provide the finance department with a tool to account for these trips down to the cent, including all load securing equipment, loading aids, vehicle damages, and so on, to settle accounts between the involved freight companies down to the exact kilometer. This has been live for some time now, and it works. We've brought a great example with us here, a cooperation with Elvis AG. Elvis AG, some of you might already be familiar with them. Europe's largest freight forwarding network with 250 medium-sized freight companies now working together in a relay system using our software, and they've shown us that the whole thing works. But of course, this relay system is just the very first step for us. It's the smallest crystallization point. We've already expanded our rhythm to include parameters for electromobility. So today we can already use real data on topography, temperature, vehicle types, real-time data from the vehicles and from the charging infrastructure to also deploy electric trucks in these operations. And we are currently working on integrating the terminals from combined transport into our transport system as well, to incorporate them so that for very long distances we can also say, hey, there's a main route here that can be much more efficiently covered by rail. Or, for example, in the event of a rail outage or rail congestion, our system allows us to switch to rail replacement services on the road. So if you are a medium-sized freight forwarder and you're interested in taking a look or in getting involved, please feel free to contact me. We are always looking for more partners who want to participate. The more people join in, the more efficiently the whole system works. If you are a large logistics service provider, perhaps with several branches or subsidiaries, and you're wondering how you can integrate these branches much better, how you can get them to work together more effectively. For example, through exchange traffic on the main routes, then feel free to contact me. Or if you are a shipper, perhaps with several production sites and you're wondering how this system can make your transport operations safer, faster, and ultimately, of course, more cost-effective for you, then feel free to contact me. I look forward to your questions and to the conversation. Thank you.
Yes, a big thank you goes to Dr. Maik Schürmeyer. Thank you so much for the great presentation. The interest is certainly there, but perhaps there are also one or two more questions because we are more than well ahead of schedule. That means we can also gladly move on to the next topic, to the Q&A. Yes, if you have any questions, always remember this is a safe space here. There are no wrong questions. Anything can be asked. If you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand.
Just in case there is any question, feel free to ask. Okay, there is a gentleman as well. Here we have a gentleman with a follow-up question. The microphone is on its way, so we are looking forward to it.
Thank you. My name is Alexander Kilias. I work at Webasto, and I saw on one of the last slides that you also have a vision regarding autonomous driving. Could you say a few words about that?
Yes, you summarized that very well. That really is a vision. So just to clarify up front, at the moment we have nothing to do with autonomous driving. But of course, we see that there is a development towards autonomous driving. I also can't tell you when autonomous driving will arrive in long-distance transport. Autonomous driving won't happen overnight, and it won't go from point to point, but rather, in the future, routes will be divided up. And maybe there will be a main route somewhere, a route that is perhaps spatially separated. On the highway, it allows autonomous traffic to take place there already in a protected environment. However, this autonomous traffic may not take place on company premises in the very first phase. That means we have a manual pre-run and post-run, and at some point we may have an autonomous or semi-autonomous main run. And it is precisely between these sections that a trailer handover has to take place in some form because there will probably be two different tractor units. And that's exactly our specialty, trailer handovers. That's why we're already at the starting line, thinking ahead about how, maybe in 10 or 20 years, we can integrate the whole topic of autonomous driving into our relay system. You can't do it without a vision, but it's always nice. There's a saying, the best way to predict the future is to shape it yourself. So just go ahead and tackle things. And it's definitely exciting to see what else is coming our way. Are there any more questions? We actually have 2 microphones going around.
Good day, I'm Rid Vossenberg from Inform in Aachen. Very interesting. Do you already have examples where it has already started? Where you have already created a hub? Pioneers who are already using your method?
A good example is the collaboration with Elvis, which I just presented. There are 250 freight forwarders in this network, and out of these 250, about 25. With 25 of them, we are currently in a pilot phase, which means they are working live with our system every day. Every day, trailer handovers take place, which we have identified or we have found the routes. We have carried out these matchings, and we also help the freight forwarders in the end with the implementation and billing of these routes.
Have you already developed a hub somewhere where this actually happens?
So we ourselves are asset light. That means we don't want our own infrastructure, no parking infrastructure or warehouses, etc. Instead, We work together with partners who have these spaces. A good example is Krawak as a provider of parking spaces, or Bosch, Secure Truck Parking, or Park Your Truck. These are all partners of ours that we collaborate with. We can view and book parking spaces. That means if our algorithm sees that we would like to carry out a swap near Hanover, then we check if one of our partners has a suitable space there. And then we select it and book it directly from our system, without us wanting to own any infrastructure ourselves, because we operate purely as a B2B SaaS software company.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. So let's take another look around. Out into the audience. No hands are going up here. Then let's say thank you once again, Maik Schürmeyer. Thank you as well. And best of luck going forward, and have a great time here in Hanover at the IAA Transportation. Thank you very much. Yes, thanks also to the audience. The industry stage is, of course, also here for networking and exchange. Whether that happens off stage as well, that's up to you to decide. We're now going to take a short break.